So welcome to this week's Lunch and Learn. Today this is the Pollinator Kick-Off. My name is Joy O'Toole. I work at the Central Rappahannock Regional Library. And today I'm joined by Lori Clarkston and Jennifer Humphrey, Master Gardeners of the Central Rappahannock area, which is part of the Virginia Cooperative Extension. And they're going to tell us all about pollinators. Welcome, Lori and Jennifer.
Thank you for inviting us to be here today. My name is Lori Clarkston, and I am a Master Gardener in Spotsylvania County. And I've been a Master Gardener for about 35 years. I'm not real sure how many years it has been. And it is a wonderful program, and I enjoy doing this because it's kind of like a hobby, and it's one of our favorite things to talk to. So what better way to do it than to be a volunteer for the Extension Office?
And I'm Jennifer Humphrey. I'm also a Master Gardener, not quite that many years, but I enjoy Master Gardening because I enjoy gardening and helping others with their gardens.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming today and talking about pollinators. So let's start by asking, what is a pollinator?
Pollinators are mostly insects that feed on pollen and nectar on flowering plants. In fact, native wild bees are the most important insect pollinators, followed by beetles, flies, moths and butterflies, birds, bats, and other mammals. There are 200,000 species of animals that act as pollinators.
Wow, that's a lot. So pollinators have something to do with pollination. So can you tell us what pollination is?
Sure. Pollination is a very important part of the plant life cycle. Pollinators feed on pollen, and as they feed and move around on the flowers, they pick up pollen while they're feeding and gathering, and it sticks to their bodies. They move from flower to flower, gathering more pollen. And this transfers the pollen from one flower to another. When that pollen comes in contact with the other part of the flower, that enables the plant to produce its fruit, or its produce, or its vegetable, whatever it produces. And then that eventually produces seeds, and seeds then give the next generation of plants. And that's the whole cycle. Up to 90% of flowering plant reproduction is important to our food crops, the ones that we depend on.
Wow. So pollinators are important. So tell us, what are some of the main reasons why we should care about pollinators?
So again, 1 out of 3 bites of the food that we eat come from pollination. And we're losing our pollinators. They've been on the decline for decades. And this is due to habitat loss. It's due to the reduction of natural areas, the reduction of diverse flower resources and nesting areas. There's overuse of pesticides, climate changes, there's increases in parasites and diseases, and invasive non-native species, which all are really driven by humans. So pollinators are vital to the health and our world economy. It propagates wild flowering plants, of course, but also many of our crops. So insect pollination is vital to food security. It contributes at least 1/3 to the world's food production. And it pollinates many things that are needed for beverages, for fibers, for medicines, and for spices. The value of pollinating services and pollinators can be in the billions of dollars, the value of products and even direct products like honey. So the value in the US alone of what pollinators bring is estimated to be nearly $40 billion.
That's a lot. So they're important. So a few minutes ago, when you were talking about it, you were talking about how the pollinators pick up pollen. Can you talk more about what pollen is and where you find it?
Yes, pollen is kind of a yellowish fine powder that you find on the flower itself, usually in the middle of it, and it's distributed from one flower to another by our pollinators. So as our various insects and bees and other pollinators brush up against the flowers, or as they're going in there to get food for themselves, they are actually pollinating the flowers as they go from one flower to another to gather the resources for themselves, and they are in fact pollinating the flowers for the flowers themselves.
Okay. So what do plants do to attract pollinators since they need them?
They do a lot. Since plants can't move to find the pollinators, they have developed special features that will attract the pollinators to come to them. So flowers, some flowers have always had pollen, but they have also adapted to take on nectar, and that is an important food crop for bees because they need pollen and nectar. So these flowers that have nectar really are targeting the bees because they know the bees will come and they will have the best pollination to their plants versus what other pollinators will do. There are other pollinators that come in and also take advantage of the pollen, but it's the bees that they're really trying to attract to come to them. About 30% of the native bees in the Mid-Atlantic region, which is the area in which we all live in, are considered pollinated or pollen specialists. And up to 70% of more than 700 bees in the eastern part of the United States are specialists. There are a lot of different shapes and sizes of flowers that have evolved to attract a special pollinator. All of these types of flowers are considered pollen specialists because they're looking for a certain pollinator that will give them the best results in their reproduction. Some flowers will develop bright, big, colorful petals and flowers. Some of them have fragrances like sweet perfumes, and there are other fragrances that have a horrid smell like rotten meat, and they actually evolved to attract a certain type of pollinator. It may not be something we want in our garden, but it is important to that pollinator to attract that certain insect. So insects also have adapted to particular flower traits so they kind of have this relationship that they help each other.
Great. So speaking of flowers, you brought some flowers with you today. Can you show us what flowers you brought and tell us a little bit about how they work with pollinators?
Yes. So what we have here today are 3 different kinds of flowers, and they all have special needs for different pollinators. So our first one that we have here is a sunflower, and sunflowers are native in the entire United States. They can be found everywhere. And sunflowers also have nectar as well as pollen. And so here we have a little honeybee that I brought, or a bee. And what the bee does will go into the flower right in the center, and they will go and they will collect some nectar and they'll collect some pollen. And if you've ever seen a bee go in and look at flowers, they come out covered in pollen. They're very messy, which is to the flowers, what the flowers need. So what happens is the bee will go around and collect enough of the pollen and the nectar, and then she'll go over to another flower, and she'll do the same thing. She'll go into here and she'll roam around here through the middle of the flower and collect pollen and stuff. And while she's doing that, she's releasing the pollen from the last flower to this flower. And she may go back to this flower because she decided that maybe she can go back and do that. And when she does that, she's pollinating both flowers. So the bee gets a reward of having nectar and pollen that she can take back to her hive. And the flowers now can continue in their cycle of life and continue on with growing new flowers for the next season on this. So that's what we have with our sunflowers. Other flowers that have nectar that to get that little bee to come through there is bee balm, which is aptly named because they really do like bee balm. Coneflowers, black-eyed Susans, Joe Pye weed, and goldenrod. These are all plants that you can find in your local nurseries. You can grow buy from seed, and you probably have friends that will share some of the plants that they have there as well. So our next flower that we have are cosmos. Now, cosmoses are not native to the United States. However, they are native to Mexico, but they are very well sought out by other pollinators, and in this case would be a pollinator of a butterfly. Now, this is a monarch. She will go also to these flowers, and what she likes about these flowers is because they have these wings that are very pretty, but every time the wind blows just a puff, it can throw her off and blow her away with the wind. So she likes these flowers particularly because she can grab hold of the petals with her feet and kind of hold her in place while she's going around and collecting pollen from flower to flower. And as she covers herself in pollen, she's also pollinating these various different flowers. Other things about butterflies are they also impact the native bird population because 96% of the North American bird species rely on insects. So she's part of the food chain. Now, we're lucky with the monarch, not so much because she's kind of poisonous. But with other butterflies, most of them they are caterpillars before they become butterflies. And bird species rely on these caterpillars to feed their young. So they're part of the food chain as well as part of the pollinating chain. And so it's very important that we keep this going and we protect our butterflies and especially monarchs. Monarchs have a really hard struggle on this, but getting and attracting your butterflies to have your variety to come into your yard. The bonus is the birds are also going to have food to feed their young, and we like seeing the birds with their babies in the spring and stuff. One of the things about butterflies is, along with the monarch, buttonbush, which is a native shrub, has really pretty little white flowers, zinnias, sedum, phlox, bee balm, sunflowers, like we had earlier, salvia, black-eyed Susan, Joe Pye weed, and Tixie coreopsis are all plants that you can find or you can grow from seed. They grow very well in this area, and they will bring butterflies to your garden. So our last pollinator that we have is the hummingbird. Now, we only have one hummingbird in our area. We're not like California. They have like 12. And so ours is called a ruby-throated hummingbird. And I don't have a ruby-throated hummingbird with me, but this is what a hummingbird looks like. And a ruby-throated hummingbird has a red breast and is green in other places and beautiful. They're just like jewels. And you'll know them when you see them. But what hummingbirds like to do is they like flowers like the trumpet vine. So you see their beak, how long it is. Well, they have a tongue that's just as long that extends out past that beak. So these flowers have evolved for the hummingbirds because they go in here and, if you see a hummingbird, it's like they just fly still. They don't move it at all. And while they're doing that, they're in here poking their heads around, looking for pollen, looking for nectar, and they're gathering it up. And after they've gathered some, they'll go to the next flower and they'll do the same thing. So while they're gathering food for themselves, they're also pollinating each of these flowers. They'll go down and they'll come in here, and they really, really like this. So trumpet vines have evolved to attract these type of pollinators because they do such a good job of pollinating these plants so they can continue on in their life cycle as well. So one of the things that is commonly known about hummingbirds is they like the color red. They are attracted. So even if you have red flowers in your yard that they might not go to, it will bring them into your yard. Just like going back to the cosmos, she'll go up to that red flower, and she will go to that one first before she'll go to the different color flowers. So if you have red in your yard, it's going to attract a hummingbird. So it helps to have some things that she can go to. You got her in the yard, now you got to feed her. And in turn, she'll pollinate your flowers, so you'll have more of these flowers in the future. Other flowers that the hummingbird likes to go to are petunias, very common, nasturtiums, impatiens, which are shade-loving plants if you don't have any sun in your yard, begonias, and snapdragons. And that's just a small number of plants. Again, these are all found in garden centers. You can grow them from seeds, and you have friends that have these plants that a lot of them are happy to share with you. Gardeners are pretty good about sharing along that. So you can see how all three of these types of flowers, they all look different. You've got gigantic big yellow ones, you've got smaller pink and red ones, and you've got orange ones. Some of them turn a little more red than others, but you can see how they attract different types of pollinators, and even the different pollinators that go to special ones that are designed for them. They also go to other things as well, but they excel at the ones that have evolved for them. And there's others. There's thousands of different types of pollinators, and you have them all in your yard and you don't even know it yet. So hopefully we've brought attention to you on at least 3 of them that people pretty much know about, and it's fun learning about the other ones.
Sure. So we still have a few minutes. Do you have a few extra facts that perhaps our viewers didn't know about pollinators?
Yeah. So many insects, like I was saying, will visit a flower to seek pollen for protein or to obtain nectar for sugar, but not all of them pollinate. So there are those that do that. So you get other things as well. Beetles. People don't realize that beetles are attracted to the sweet scent of flowers, and they too are pollinators. One of our most favorite beetles is a ladybug, and the firefly. Firefly is a pollinator, and if you don't have any fireflies in your yard, it's because you don't have any flowers. You put flowers in your yard, you're going to have fireflies. And I'll let you talk about the other ones.
And really, to have a pollinator garden doesn't require acres and acres of property. You can have something as small as a little patch in your garden, or even just some pots on your deck. All the little patches a pollinator can put together. They can, if you attract them and they come, they're little and they fly, and in their range, they'll put together all those little patches to make what they need possible. And it moves out and it helps the other places that need the pollinators as well.
So it sounds like if each one of us even did a couple of pots or a little patch of flowers in our yard, that we could make a big difference in our pollinators population in this area.
especially people who really want to do gardening, but they live in apartments, and if they have a balcony on there, just a one pot and one flower. If you put a pot with a zinnia in there, you will get several pollinators. If you put a zinnia and another different type of plant in there, you'll probably double, if not triple, the pollinators that will come to you. And pollinators will go up pretty high. If you were lived on the third story of an apartment building, they will come. It's not too good for them. They will go up that high to do that. And once they know you're there and you have that, they keep coming back.
Great. Well, this is so interesting. And if you want to know more, there's going to be an in-person Pollinator Kick-Off at the Fredericksburg Branch on Saturday, June 21st from 10 to 2. So you can check on our website or in our At Your Library magazine to find out more and get to hear even more about pollinators and ask all of the questions that you might have about pollinators. Thank you, Lori and Jennifer, for sharing about pollinators. It's been so interesting. And we appreciate you coming.
Thank you very much. And again, thank you for inviting us to share this, because it'll be a fun event to come, and you'll walk away learning more about pollinators than you ever thought. And we do have kids activities. And we find that the adults participate in the kids activities. They like them too. So
Great.
Come out on the 21st.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.